Today I'm going to be giving some advice to both buyers and sellers of real estate in Canada because it turns out, based on a lot of conversations I've had recently, there's still a fair bit of confusion in this area. So the first thing to note, if you're a buyer or a seller and you're using a real estate agent or a broker, don't tolerate the real estate agent or broker acting as agent for both the buyer and the seller. There's huge moral hazard associated with this, and the real estate professional is not going to be interested in getting the lowest price for the buyer or the highest price for the seller. They're going to be interested in getting the deal done fast, and that's not necessarily in your best interest. When you get into the real estate market from either side, whether you're a buyer or a seller, don't tolerate the moral hazard that is somehow acceptable in Canada of having a broker act as agent for both the buyer and the seller of a piece of real estate. Okay, now for the buyers, one thing you want to do is avoid bidding wars. It's a very common practice, at least in Toronto and some of the larger real estate markets in Canada. The real estate professional will list the house below its real market value, in hopes of creating a bidding war, which will drive up the price of the house and getting the most money for the seller. It's a very common practice, and my advice to people who are on the buy side of real estate transactions at the moment is don't get caught up in that sort of idea. Don't let yourself get carried away with the emotions of a particular house. Don't fall in love with a house. Know to the penny before you actually go out with an agent to look at houses. Know to the penny exactly how much you're willing to pay and have the discipline to not pay over that. Otherwise, you're going to get yourself into all kinds of financial trouble. The idea that this one house that you've fallen in love with is the only dream house for you, it's a myth. There's hundreds of thousands of houses that are out there. Many hundreds of them could be just as good for you. Never fall in love with a single piece of property. Just remind yourself that there's plenty of fish in the sea, and the right house at the right price will come along eventually. Another one of the many cheesy things that some real estate agents do is that they project future returns for an investment property. So you'll have a pre-construction condo, for example, that's actually not going to be built for another 3 years, and they'll tell you today in their sales office what your returns are going to be. Don't listen to them when they offer you this kind of nonsense. Real estate agents, just like everyone else, cannot read the future. They don't know what the next 3 years is going to look like. Highly unethical for them to do that. Many of them are innumerate. They don't know how to forecast rates of return. They may not even know how to calculate rates of return properly. And they certainly don't know what the future is going to be in terms of rental rates, in terms of interest rates, in terms of the carrying costs of this property. So when a real estate agent engages in this kind of practice, run, don't walk in the other direction. It's cheesy that they do it. I don't know why it's allowed for them to do it. It's another sign that this is an unregulated industry and very much buyer beware. The last piece of advice I'll offer buyers of real estate in Canada in the spring of 2014, now might be a terrible time to buy. You may want to actually sit on the sidelines. Check out my other real estate videos for my reasoning behind this. The idea is that now might be an absolutely appallingly bad time to buy real estate in Canada. Be very, very careful when you do it. The return line that people have enjoyed over the last 20 years in real estate markets is likely to come down for a host of reasons I cover in other real estate pieces that you can see on this channel, so I'm not going to bore you with that. If you're a buyer, please be careful. Just like now might be a terrible time to buy, now might be a fantastic time to sell. Again, the returns that people have enjoyed from real estate over the last 20 years, I think that line is going to slow down for reasons that I've covered again in other videos on this channel. So from the seller's point of view, now might be a great time to sell. Another piece of advice to sellers is that you should probably encourage bidding wars in your property. The auction process is part of the price discovery process. It's hypocritical, in my opinion, of anti-real estate people like myself who criticize this practice. It's not cheesy. Auctions are part of many different types of markets, and so if you are the seller of real estate, I think you should engage in the practice of underpricing your house in order to try to create buzz for it. People complain about it, but they don't seem to complain about it when it happens in the US Treasury market or in agricultural products. I think sometimes we're a little inconsistent in our reasoning. If you're a seller of a product or if you're a seller of a house, underprice it in order to create a bidding war. My final piece of advice to sellers of real estate is to look at the commission. It turns out that 5% could be quite a large sum of money for property, depending on the value of that property. And you want to ask yourself whether it's worth your while actually going out and writing the real estate exam to act as your own agent in a sense. You'll still have to give some commission to the buying broker, but you're actually going to save on the commission you'd have to give to the selling broker. And there's a few good reasons for this. Obviously, there's a good financial reason to do this. I think also you'll be the most motivated agent that you could possibly be, given that it's your own property. You'll be more motivated than anyone else. And you may actually like real estate as a career. And as a result of that, you might get your face plastered on a local bus stop or a park bench. And what could be better than that? That's my advice for people who are buying and selling in the real estate market in Canada in the spring of 2014. If you've heard some other advice about what to do as a real estate participant that I haven't talked about here, please post it. And thank you very much for watching.